You mean spending more time with my friends and family and loved ones? It can, reduce the likelihood I'm going to get sick by 400%. And the answer is yes. It's eat well, move more, stress less, love more. People say, well, okay, I get the diet and exercise important. And yeah, meditation, okay, I can kind of get that too. But love more, that's kind of weird. What is that about? People who are lonely and depressed are 3 to 10 times more likely to get sick and die prematurely compared to those who have a sense of love and connection and community.
Welcome to the Lifestyle First podcast, discussing lifestyle medicine and making self-care as easy as 1, 2, 3. And now your host, lifestyle medicine physician and coach, Dr. Alka Patel.
Hi, hey, and hello, and welcome to Series 9, Episode 3. The theme for today's episode is F for food. And the one question that we're exploring today is, how can I reverse disease through food? Now, to help answer this question, I have with me who I can only describe as the father of lifestyle medicine. It's Dr. Dean Ornish. And I wonder, does he really even need an introduction? So what can I say about Dr. Ornish? Well, Forbes magazine have said he is one of the world's 7 most powerful teachers. There are 7 wonders in the world, and there are 7 most powerful teachers, and Dr. Ornish is one of them. People magazine have said he's one of the most interesting people of the year, and Life magazine have said he is one of the 50 most influential people of his generation. So we really are in great company today. Dr. Ornish has directly revolutionized research, and he's proven, and I say that word, proven, that lifestyle changes can often reverse the progression of so many chronic diseases. And Dr. Ornish is also an acclaimed author. He's got some incredible books out there. A couple of these include the bestseller, Dr. Dean Ornish's Programme for Reversing Heart Disease, and one that I really do want to mention today, which is Undo It, How Simple Lifestyle Changes Can Reverse Most Chronic Disease. And the exciting thing is that this bestseller has just been published in paperback, so it really is one to get your hands on right now. So, Dr. Ornish, welcome. I really am truly honored and excited to be in your company today.
Oh, well, Dr. Patel, right back at you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, come on, let's get straight into it. Let me ask you a question. Is food really that powerful? So powerful that it makes disease disappear? Let's hear it.
Well, I think you kind of hit a really important point, because I think the biggest obstacle that I've found in the 40 years of doing this work is that people think, oh, diet and lifestyle, that's kind of boring. How powerful could that be? It has to be something really high tech and expensive to be powerful, a new drug, a new laser, a new device, a new surgical procedure. And I think our unique contribution, my colleagues and I, has been to use these very high-tech, expensive, state-of-the-art scientific measures to prove how powerful these very simple and low-tech and low-cost interventions can be. And the more diseases we study and the more evidence we look at, the more impressed I am by how powerful these simple changes in lifestyle can be, and how quickly people can feel better or worse, depending on what they're doing, in ways we can actually measure. So, we were the first to prove that heart disease could be reversed by changing diet and lifestyle. In fact, everything we've done over the last 4 decades was thought impossible at the time. And that's one of the reasons why I've spent so much of my adult life doing research, because it's really hard doing these studies. It's hard to get them funded. It's hard to get them conducted, and a lot of bureaucracy and so on. But what makes it worth doing is that properly done, and with the leading collaborators and published in the leading peer-reviewed journals, is we can redefine what's possible. And by doing so, we can often give many people new hope and new choices they didn't have before. For example, with heart disease, when we started doing our studies back in 1977, it was thought that it could only get worse. At best, you could slow it down a little bit, and that was it. We showed for the first time you could actually get better. Within a month, the blood flow to the heart's improved, and the ability of the heart to pump blood increases. After a year, even severely clogged arteries in the heart became less clogged. After 5 years, even more improvement than after 1 year. Whereas the control group, the randomized control groups in these studies, got worse and worse over time. And we found these same lifestyle changes can not only reverse heart disease, but type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, early stage prostate cancer in a randomized control trial that we did, and change your gene expression, over 500 genes, turning on your good genes, turning off your bad genes in just 3 months. That was thought impossible. We did that with Craig Venter, who was the first to decode the human genome. We did a study with Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who got the Nobel Prize for discovering telomeres, the ends of our chromosomes that regulate aging, how long we live. As our telomeres get shorter, our lives get shorter. And we found for the first time that by going on the lifestyle program that I recommend, that telomeres actually got longer. And when we published this, the Lancet editors, the leading international medical journal, sent out a press release worldwide, and they called it the first study showing that lifestyle may reverse aging at a cellular level. And now we're in the middle of the first randomized trial to see whether we can stop or reverse the progression of early stage Alzheimer's disease. I think we're at a place with Alzheimer's very reminiscent of where we were with heart disease. What's good for your heart is good for your brain. And I wondered, why is it that these same lifestyle changes can affect so many different diseases? And, I was trained, like I'm sure you were, to view these as different diseases, different diagnoses, and different treatments. And yet we found these same lifestyle changes could affect all of them. And then it occurred to me that they're really not so different, that they have more in common than they have different. They're in many ways the same disease manifesting and masquerading in different forms because they all share the same underlying biological mechanisms: chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, changes in the microbiome, and telomeres, and gene expression, and angiogenesis, and so on. And each one of these mechanisms, in turn, is directly influenced by what we eat, how we respond to stress, how much exercise we get, and how much love and support we have. And the more diseases we study, the more evidence we have to show what a powerful difference these simple changes can make. And it also helps explain why you often find the same patient will have what are called comorbidities. They'll have often high blood pressure and high cholesterol and heart disease and type 2 diabetes and be overweight and so on. Or entire countries may be that way. In Asia 50 years ago, those diseases were very rare, and they start to eat like us and live like us, and now all too often die like us. So it radically simplifies what we can recommend to people to stay healthy. So in the Undo It book, it begins with one of my favorite quotes, which is from Albert Einstein, that says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And so we try to really reduce it down to its essence: a whole foods, plant-based diet that's low in fat and sugar, moderate exercise. If you like it, you'll do it. Do something you like. Various meditation and other yoga-based stress management techniques, and spending more time with your friends and family. Or to reduce it even further, to eat well, move more, stress less, love more. That's it. And so the book really shows you how and why to make these changes and how much better you can feel within just usually a few days.
I love your explanation of all of this, Dr. Ornish, especially your words hope and choice. And it's really what we need right now, isn't it? We really are in this space where we're all looking for hope. And I know some of your research has also looked at COVID at this particular time, hasn't it? And in fact, I know we're all talking about masks and distancing and isolating from each other, but what we're not actually talking about is the other stuff, the lifestyle stuff that can also really help be a very strong protective proponent for what we're trying to avoid, in essence. So can you share with us a little bit of research around food and COVID and what you found?
Sure. And I think it's especially compelling given the Omicron variant because, before, if you were vaccinated, double vaccinated, wore masks, you were pretty well protected. Now there's a lot of breakthroughs, even in people who are triple vaccinated. And so a lot of people are saying, what can I do to enhance my own immune system? In addition to, obviously, everyone should be vaccinated, wear masks, socially distance, and so on. But what else can I do? And 2 studies came out recently in the last month that really, I think, were very, in terms of what again, showing what a powerful difference these simple lifestyle changes can make. In one study, they looked at almost 3,000 frontline healthcare workers, people taking care of COVID patients every day. So they were getting exposed to COVID, throughout the day. And they found that those that reported eating a plant-based diet were actually 73% less likely to develop moderate to severe COVID. But those eating an Atkins, paleo, ketogenic, high animal protein, high fat diet were actually 4 times more likely to come down with COVID, moderate to severe COVID. And another study that came out of Harvard and out of King's College in London looked at almost 600,000 men and women and found that those eating a healthy plant-based diet, like the one I write about in Undo It, were 41% less likely to develop moderate to severe COVID. So those are big differences, and we can really and that's something we can do something about. Other studies have shown that people who are overweight are 3 times more likely to get moderate to severe COVID. People who are sedentary are more likely to get it, whereas people who exercise are protected. And there were some interesting studies that were done by a guy named Sheldon Cohen that were published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And they actually, I don't know how he got people to volunteer for the study or how he got it through the Human Studies Committee, but they looked at people who were healthy volunteers, and they dripped rhinovirus, the virus that causes the common cold, into their noses. In another study, they dripped a different variant of coronavirus, not the one that caused the COVID-19, but a cousin of that. And they found that 100% of the people in the first study got infected, but not everyone who got infected got sick. And they found that those who had 6 or more, what they called social contacts, a phone call, a Zoom call, a visit from a friend, compared to those that had 2 or fewer over a 2-week period, were over 4 times less likely to get sick. I mean, they were all infected, but they were 4 times less likely to show the signs and symptoms of having a cold. Now, to me, that's mind-boggling. People say, "You mean spending more time with my friends and family and loved ones, it can, reduce the likelihood I'm going to get sick by 400%?" And the answer is yes. It's eat well, move more, stress less, love more. People say, well, okay, I get the diet and exercise important. And meditation, okay, I can kind of get that too, but love more, that's kind of weird. What is that about, And it's really about, study after study have shown that people who are lonely and depressed are 3 to 10 times more likely to get sick and die prematurely compared to those who have a sense of love and connection and community. And I don't know anything in medicine that has that powerful an impact. And so the time that we spend with our friends and family and loved ones is especially important, especially if we're socially distancing and not really getting out much. But if you can do it by Zoom or a phone call or, just connecting in whatever way, anything that brings us together is really healing. Even the word healing comes from the root to make whole. And, is yoga from the Sanskrit to yoke, to unite, union. These are really old ideas that we're rediscovering. So rather than feeling like the time you spend with your friends and family and loved one is a luxury to do after you've done the important stuff, you realize it is the important stuff.
Yeah. Gosh, some of what you're describing, it really is about the essentials of life, really, isn't it? And these essentials, these foundations, we tend to just gloss over and ignore. And back to our opening statement about power, there really is power in what you're describing. We've been talking about chronic disease and long-term disease, but now you're also sort of talking about more acute illnesses and things like the cold and COVID. So really important to really think about the sort of expansile nature of lifestyle and its implications for our health on a more wider spectrum as well. But yes. Maybe back to the Ornish diet, the food. I know it's been voted time and time again, hasn't it, as the number one diet to beat heart disease. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more in detail about the specifics of the diet called the Ornish diet. I know we talked about plant-based eating, but what does that actually mean? Because it can mean different things to different people, can't it?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. Yeah, just recently, after the first of the year, a panel of experts rates diets every year from U.S. News and World Report. And they reported just recently that what they call the Ornish diet is number one for heart health. It's for the 11th year since 2011 when they began rating diets. So we're very grateful to them for that kind of vote of confidence. And I think anything that raises awareness, including your show, is the first step in healing. The diet is really simple. It's basically a whole foods plant-based diet: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, soy products, as close as possible as they come in nature. Naturally low in fat, naturally low in sugar and refined carbs. Now, if you're trying to reverse disease, that's more the pound of cure. It's hard to reverse a chronic disease. That's one of the reasons we were the first to prove it in so many of these other conditions, is because most people didn't go far enough. Ounce of prevention, pound of cure, if you will. If you're just trying to stay healthy, lose a few pounds, get your cholesterol or blood pressure way down a little bit, what matters most is your overall way of eating and living. So if you indulge yourself one day, it doesn't mean you cheated or you're bad or you failed. Just eat healthier the next. If you don't have time to exercise one day, do a little more the next. One of the things I've learned is that even more than being healthy, most people want to feel free and in control. And as soon as the whole language of behavioral change has this kind of, finger wagging, moralistic, nurse Ratched, fascist, I call it quality, where, do this, don't do that, eat this, don't eat that. And, even, like I say, even more than being healthy, people want to feel free. And as soon as someone's told that, they immediately want to do the opposite. This goes back to the first dietary intervention when God said, don't eat the apple, and that didn't go so well. And that was God talking, So if you're trying to actually reverse disease, the Undo It book is really prescriptive. It says, this is what it takes. It's not easy, but you can do it. 96% of the people, Medicare is now covering my program for reversing heart disease. And we've been training with ShareCare hospitals and clinics and physician groups around the country. And it's working. We're getting bigger changes in lifestyle, better clinical outcomes, bigger cost savings, better adherence than anyone's ever shown. But just about a month ago, Medicare agreed to not only cover my reversing heart disease program when it's offered in a hospital or clinic or doctor's office, but now by Zoom, you can do it in the comfort of your own home. So now you don't have to live within driving distance of one of the places we train. You can live anywhere in the country, even in rural areas. It can help reduce health disparities and health inequities, and Medicare will pay for it. You can do it by Zoom in your own house, and we'll send you food for the first few weeks to make it easier to make the transition. So if anyone's watching this and interested about that, go to ornish.com and you can leave us your name and we'll send you information on it. And by the way, we're also still recruiting the last few patients for our Alzheimer's study, also done at no cost to the person. If you or one of your loved ones has Alzheimer's, early Alzheimer's, go to ornish.com and you can give us your names there as well. So if you're trying to reverse disease, that's what the Undo It book is about. It's prescriptive. But if you're just trying to, lose a few pounds or whatever, what matters most is your overall way of eating and living. So in an earlier book called The Spectrum, I categorize foods from the most healthful, what I call group 1, to the least helpful, group 5, and say, figure out where you are in this spectrum. And to the degree you move in a healthier direction, there's a corresponding benefit. One of the interesting findings in all of our study, which surprised me, was that the more you change your diet and lifestyle, the more you improve and the better you feel at any age. And that's really what makes it sustainable. And paradoxically, we tend to think that small changes are easy and big ones are hard. And especially when you change a lot of things at the same time is really hard. And yet 96% of the people finish all 72 hours of our Medicare covered program. And whereas only about a third of people are taking their statins after just 4 to 6 months. And the answer is, well, how can that be? And the answer is that when you make big changes, especially if you change a lot of things at the same time, eat well, move more, stress less, and love more, you generally feel so much better so quickly. It reframes the reason for making these changes from fear of dying or fear of something bad happening, which is really not sustainable, to feeling good, to joy and pleasure and love and feeling good. So that's like, oh, well, I like eating junk food, but boy, I feel so much better when I eat this way. Maybe I'll do more of that. When I eat this way, I feel good. When I eat that way, I don't feel so good. So let me eat more of this and less of that. It's especially dramatic when you have, say, heart disease and you have chest pain when you do very much. So for someone who can't, walk across the street without getting chest pain, or make love with their spouse without getting chest pain, or play with their kids, or go back to work without getting angina or chest pain. And usually within a few weeks, they're essentially pain-free or close to that. And can often, under their doctor's supervision, reduce or get off of drugs that they were told they'd have to take the rest of their lives. Then the choices become so much clearer. It's like, yeah, I like eating junk food and I like doing that stuff, but not that much, because what I gain is so much more than what I give up. That's really what makes it sustainable. So that's the diet. The exercise is walking for a half an hour a day or an hour 3 times a week. With exercise, it's mostly aerobic with some strength training and stretching. But the key is, if you like it, you'll do it. So find an exercise you like and do it. Or build it into your daily life. Take the stairs. And I used to get frustrated when I couldn't find a parking spot near the gym, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. So now I deliberately park further away, just to get a little more exercise in wherever I'm going. It's easier to find a parking spot if you don't mind parking a little farther away. So it helps reduce your stress as well. The stress less is stretching, breathing, meditation in whatever form is comfortable for you. It can be religious or secular. And love more. Spend more time with your friends and family, and focus on opening your heart and being more authentic and trusting and intimate in your relationships. It makes life so much more enjoyable, but it also is one of the most powerful things you can do to reduce your risk of getting sick. Whereas in contrast, the one emotion that's been consistently linked with a multiple higher incidence of, say, heart attacks is chronic anger and hostility and depression. So when you're more loving and compassionate and forgiving, it's not for some external reward. That's what frees us from our suffering. It doesn't excuse or condone what the other person's done, but it frees us from our suffering. And it's something that we can do to empower ourselves.
Yeah. So there's something there about really tuning into yourself, isn't there? Is being aware of the difference that the changes that you're making actually have on you, realizing that you're feeling better, thinking differently, have more clarity, are kinder, have got less chest pain, and physically sort of feeling different as well. So that sense of just tuning into yourself, again, I don't think we often do that. We let days pass, hours pass, weeks pass, and we haven't really clocked whether am I feeling better, am I feeling different, what was it that I did? So I think that sounds like a really important component, is just to have that space for a bit of introspection and really tune into yourself. And also what you said earlier, Dr. Ornish, which is about commit, do what it takes. If you really are determined to beat heart disease, then it's in your grasp to do that, so long as you do what it takes, right?
Yes. Well, we've talked about how, if it's pleasurable, it's sustainable, but also if it's meaningful, it's sustainable. And, in all spiritual traditions, they're usually dietary guidelines of one sort or another. Eat this, don't eat that. Sometimes different foods or different days of the week or times of days or months of the year, whatever. And sometimes the dietary guidelines are different from one religion to another. It's like, is God confused? Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that whatever the intrinsic benefit of choosing not to eat or do certain things, it imbues those choices with meaning when you choose not to eat something. So if you say, gosh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I'm so deprived, am I going to live longer? Is it just going to seem longer? All those kind of things. That's not sustainable. If you say, I'm consciously choosing to eat mostly certain foods and not eat others because what I gain is so much more than what I give up. And by the way, I want to live longer because I want to watch my kids grow up. I want to, hang out. I want to do fun things, that what I gain is so much more than what I give up. That makes those choices sustainable and meaningful. Or if you choose to be in a monogamous relationship, is that the ball and chain? Well, it can be, or can it be, on the other hand, we know you can only be intimate to the degree you can make yourself emotionally vulnerable, open your heart, if you will. And you can only do that to the degree you feel safe, because, if you open yourself up, people can hurt you, and everybody's experienced that before. But if you're in a totally committed relationship with someone, like my wife and I are, for example, then rather than feeling confining, it feels liberating, because now we can open our hearts more and more and more, make ourselves emotionally more and more vulnerable. It's like a continuum. It's infinite. The more intimate it is, the more erotic it is, the more pleasurable it is, the more fulfilling it is, the more uplifting it is. And so we end up having these amazing different experiences with the same person, as opposed to having the same kind of experience with different people. It's not a value judgment. It's not a moral judgment. It's like, oh, I like this better, and I feel better when I do this. It's even more enjoyable, and it's certainly more meaningful. And so that makes it more sustainable.
And now, here is your lifestyle first prescription. Your 3 activating actions to take you from knowing to doing.
Before we end, Dr. Ornish, can you give us perhaps 3 actions for people listening today who are ready to undo it? What would you say are the top 3 things that they can start with?
Well, again, going to the ornish.com site or getting the Undo It book, I think will really give you all the information you need in order to do it. It's got recipes. There are, frozen meals you can get that I have no financial relationship with, just to make it easy to get started. But the thing to remember is that whatever you do, there's a corresponding benefit. It's not all or nothing. If you're trying to reverse disease, again, that's the pound of cure. But otherwise, have a meatless Monday. Just whatever you do, just pay attention to how you feel when you're doing it or when you're not doing it, and see the difference. And then it comes out of your own experience, and it takes it out of the realm of that expert says that, and this one says that, and the diet wars and all that. Say, oh, when I do this, I feel good. When I do that, I don't feel so good. So let me try. Maybe I'll spend a day or maybe 3 or 4 days just eating mostly a whole foods, plant-based diet. And then you'll see how much better you feel. And then it comes out of your own experience, and then if you don't have time to meditate for an hour, do it for a minute. Whatever you do, there's a corresponding benefit. If you don't have time to exercise for an hour, just walk around a little more, spend a little more time with your friends and family and loved ones. Whatever you do, there's a corresponding benefit. And then pay attention to how you feel, and you'll notice how much better you feel, how quickly you can feel better. And then that will motivate you to do more, not out of fear of dying, but out of joy of living.
Fear of dying or joy of living. Thank you. really appreciate your comments today and your actions. And I will certainly put up all those links to your program and to your book as well, which would highly recommend, given, as you say, you've taken what can seem so complex and actually helped it to become much simpler to just live healthy, happy and long. So thank you so much, Dr. Ornish. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. It's really, it's easy, and I'm more passionate about doing this after 40 some odd years than ever, because I've seen what a powerful difference it can make. And it's really fun working with people and showing them how they can transform their suffering into joy and pleasure and love and happiness. So thank you for the opportunity to be of service.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I wish everyone listening a happy, healthy day.
Thanks for joining us on the Lifestyle First podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and share. To learn more, please visit www.dralkapatel.com.